As women, we think, oh no, that means there's something wrong with me, and then I got to find another way to make it work. We often walk into rooms trying to do what? Contort and to
Mm.
fit into boxes when it's not us that's crooked, it's the room.
Oh,
So we walk
so
into
good.
many crooked rooms and we take on that crookedness and trying to affix, to appease, to please, and end up with a disease.
Hey, Soul Family. Welcome to the Alive and Awake podcast. I'm your host, Alicia Kay, and I have spent the last 20 years teaching people how to work with their wounds and overcome their greatest fears so they can learn how to thrive in a world where they were only taught to conform. Each week, we will dive deep into the practical, the spiritual, and the mystical so I can teach you how to do the inner work to know yourself, trust yourself, and eventually love yourself enough to create a world where you feel fully alive, awake, and free. So don't forget to hit that subscribe button and never miss an episode. Ready? Let's dive in. Hey everyone, I am here with Tamara, or Dr. McMillan, if you know her in the professional professor world. I had the privilege of meeting her at a financial brunch recently with my wealth coach, and I was blown away. As most of you know, if you've been listening to me, I am an energy person, and her energy is big and expansive and bold as hell. So she is definitely my kind of woman. And I was really excited to see that she is actually local in my community in Buffalo. So it has a certain special place in my heart to know that we are helping women
Mhm.
rise in this area because it is so needed, and we have
Yes.
been just pushed down and oppressed and in so many ways as the feminine. And I'm really excited to dive in to hear about how you came to be tenacious
Sure.
and authentic. So I often was, kind of like reflect on what I'm most curious about. And I
Mm.
just know, because you have such expansive energy, that you've probably been through some depths of stuff. We'll
Yeah.
call that hell, maybe.
Listen, and back, and then again, and then back, and then again. Yes.
So yeah, so yeah, what was your mess that you like turned into your message, or your pain into your
Mm.
purpose? Like how did you become who you are today, and what can you or what do you feel comfortable sharing about your background and really how you came to be the woman that you are in this moment?
Wow, awesome. Well, first and foremost, I want to thank you for not only attending the third annual Financial Freedom Brunch, which Christine and I collaborate. She is a wealth coach with Node, and then my company, Empower Me. We've been doing this because we felt that it was essential, it was important for women to come together and to talk about not only our finances, but first and foremost, talk about ourselves. And you probably remember my piece of the dialogue, the conversation was around to met no says, thyself thou must know. So thank you for being there, for offering your brilliance to that wonderful space where women had an opportunity to show up as their authentic self, authentic Alicia, and be tenacious and be necessary and be joyful and be all of the things that they need to be. So I thank you. And then I thank you for the opportunity to be here with your guest and being able to share some time and some experiences with your listeners, and hopeful that our dialogue, our exchange fills their cup and
Yes.
fills their cup in ways that is empowering, gives them what that much more strength, courage to do the thing that they want to do.
Ah, so
So,
good. Yes. Thank you.
yeah.
Thank you for that reminder and intro as well.
Right? Love it. So my mess turned into message, my test turned into testimony. My failure turned into fanatic.
Mm.
All of the wonderful word alliterations. I have plenty of stories to share and to lean in, but I am going to share the one I think that is most important, that I really love supporting and seeing women through, and that is seeing themselves, right?
Mm.
To make no sense. And that was my mess. That was my hang up. That was my space of uncomfortability. That was my unknowing. And there was this one quote. I was a speaker, panelist, I should say, in this one conference. And I'm gonna tell you, it was nothing but the universe, Alicia. And I can't remember the question, but the answer was just so telling and it was so true. But it's that we talked about it, taking the dots out of our pocket and begin connecting them. And the mess was I didn't trust me with me.
Oof.
We're gonna let that marinate for a minute.
It's so true. It's so good.
I didn't
An
trust me
aha
with
moment.
me. Yes, and that was so now that's what the company does, empower me, and we do that in a few different ways. We have events in person like the one that you attended. We have an online community titled We Can Be Bold Together, or the tagline is We Can Be Bold Together, but it's Try Bold Together, because we want to begin debunking the rumor that as women, we have to be in competition with one
Mm.
another to even win. We call bullshit. We don't. There is enough space for
Yes.
all of us to exist. And then the other ways in which I do, again, see women and support them is through one-on-one. I call it conduit. I don't necessarily lean too much into the word coaching because I believe it's overused. And I think a
Yep.
lot of times we get it wrong. So I say I serve as the conduit, moving something or someone from one place to the next based off of their goal, wish, or challenge.
It's beautiful. It's actually you dove into one of my questions for you because I'm also super passionate about bringing women together. I really feel that we are moving from that competition mindset
Mm,
to
yes,
that connection, collaborative, building each other up mindset and really
indeed.
reclaiming our sisterhood.
Mhm.
And with so many women that have that sisterhood wound, how do you work
Mm,
with that in your group? Like, what do
wow.
you address? What do you say to women who are scared to kind of like put themselves out there with other women? How do
Yeah,
you work with that?
that's a really great question. So one of the things, and I don't know, if I really say I work with it. And what I mean by that, Alicia, is we're not in the spaces because here's the deal, there's too much to do, and there's not enough time for us to be confused about it.
Oh, yeah.
So we invite, the invitation is for a select woman, kind of like even the third annual financial freedom brunch. There's specific words, there's language. And as speakers, you and I know this, they carry energy.
Mm-hmm.
And we're not here to convince, cajole, or change the mind of any woman. So this space is for a woman who understands the beauty and the brilliance of being with dope women, wanting
Yes.
to win
So
with other
good.
women. And I just we don't have the energy, the marketing dollars, let's just say that, to
Yeah. Yeah.
change the minds, of a woman who needs the space. So the work is already difficult in and of itself. And I don't want to spend, I don't spend any energy or effort into trying to change their mind. You know it when you know it. You
Yes.
know it when you know it. One of the dynamic bold members, she came in, I want to say 2 years into the cohort, because some women, to your point, don't want to be in a cohort with other women because of the wound, because of the scarring,
Yeah.
right?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Other women realize that, yo, I not only get to have Tamara, Dr. McMillan, as my conduit, I get 7 to 8 other dope women to pour into me, to
Mm.
help me bring my ideas to light. That perspective, that lens, why wouldn't I? Right? Why wouldn't I?
Ah, yes.
So you see, and I'm like, oh my goodness, it's so refreshing and it's so freeing. But this one particular boat member, her name is Dee, and she won't care that, I'll share that because she shared it. She said, had this opportunity presented itself to me 2 years prior, 5 years, 10 years, I wouldn't have seen it because I wouldn't have been ready.
So true. Yeah. And that's it.
That's
That's
it.
it. Yeah.
That is it.
And I
So
do a lot of individual work. And the one thing that I hear constantly across the board for my practice is I haven't found my tribe. I don't know
Yes.
where I fit in. I haven't found my people. My friends think
Yes.
I'm crazy. They're not like me. They don't understand me. And there is a deep inner knowing
Yes.
that when you are on, I'll say like the light worker path or like the expansive path,
For
you are
sure.
looking for those connections.
Ta-da, and there it is. And it's
Yeah.
for the woman who's looking. And we invite women to come inside. Come inside, take a look. We have free online events. We have PDF downloadables where they get an opportunity to do what touch and feel and experience. We
Mm.
have free discovery calls with myself as the lead conduit. And then we get an opportunity where you get to see the tribe in full effect. Some hear some of their stories, some of their testimonies are on the website. But Alicia, we want who wants us.
Oh, so good.
Is
And
that
I'm so excited that you're doing this local. So what does that look like? What is the process if someone is interested in being part of your, was it Boldly Authentic group? What is the name? How do you
the Be Bold tribe?
Be Bold Tribe?
We're being bold together, right?
Love
As
it. I
women
love it.
being bold together, seeing
Yeah,
and
yeah.
supporting one another, holding one another up, but also holding one another accountable, but with love.
Oh,
But with love.
so good. Yeah. So
So
how does someone, well, your website, which we'll certainly put in the
yes.
show notes, but what does that look like for someone who is ready to find their tribe?
To step in? Great
Yeah.
question. So how we do it is because I believe in cohort and I also believe in intimacy. I
Mm.
believe in being able to put my arms around the women that come into the space because I believe all too often we have been sold a bill of goods that if you don't have 1,000 people, you don't have 1,500, if you don't have 10,000 individuals, your work isn't important. Again, not so.
Yeah.
So our cohort is no more than 9 women.
Oh, that's so
So that's the
beautiful.
first thing. So we have open, again, experiences. So women can, again, apply to be a part of the actual cohort. And then there is a 6-week experience that they go through together. There's a curriculum. And you guessed it, the first leg is to met no says.
Ah,
Ta-da!
love it.
So
Love it.
then, so they move through the curriculum, they move through the experience together as a cohort. And then once they're finished with that particular experience, for those women who feel like they've gotten everything that they need, they go on and
Mm.
sashay and do the work in the world. For the women who want that continued accountability, that continued energy and connection, then what happens is they are connected with the larger tribe where we meet twice a month, the first and the third Wednesday, and we come together and we work through one another's experiences. We work through one another's goal. Like one of the members just launched, she just had her first in-person event. So we get together, we walk her through everything. She presents her Eventbrite page. She presents the description. She presented all of her information, the actual itinerary, and then what we do is we help her get ready. We ask questions where we feel like there might be gaps. We say, hey, have you thought about this? We talk about the survey. If you're going to have a pre-survey, a post-survey. So we really support one another
Wow.
in totality. And remember, the support is also personal and professional. It just isn't for women who have businesses because personally, we're moving through experiences. Some of us are wanting to apply to that CEO C-suite position, but we feel like because we don't have all 10 of the requirements, we can't apply. Where we know men will have 6 and they apply in 2 seconds. Women that
Oh,
want to, again, relocate, women who really want to be able to, your point, and your clients have a tribe where I'm not alone because success is lonely
yeah.
when you
Yeah.
don't have a tribe.
Yeah, absolutely.
Being your authentic self is lonely when there's no one around you speaking the same language and being able to defer judgment on who you are,
So
especially
good.
again as women. So that's what the process looks like.
Oh, it's beautiful. In my own experience, I didn't know how much I was missing, like that
Mm,
sisterhood build up until really a couple years ago when I joined like an online in-person collective called Fit for Service. And
yes.
it was so interesting to me, one, to break down my walls, like, and just
Mm,
to let connection in, to receive support, to let people see me. I was like, I've been guarded my whole life and I didn't even know it.
Right?
Right? It was just
Indeed.
like, it was so like, it felt so good to just let that crumble and to have women that I've connected with that see me. And like when I'm either running an event or I'm doing something, but to have someone who is just there, they're just the energetic support
Mhm.
of, I want to be here for you to help you rise. There's so much fuel underneath that energy
It
that
is.
feels really, really good. And I think women, they don't know what they don't know until they know it, right? It's like when you
Indeed.
have that,
Yes.
it is just, it's so refreshing, and it it feels safe. It feels comforting. It feels
Mhm.
empowering. It feels uplifting, especially because you're not dealing with other women who are trying to like take from you or compete with you.
Yes, indeed. And you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
You don't know what you don't know. And then all too often, because of the ways in which we have been socialized as women, we have all of these narratives that have been what? Encroached upon our space. And
Yes.
what happens? We're carrying these narrative all throughout life, Alicia. And we weren't given the tools or the strategy, or we weren't told that, hey, it's important for you to assess this bag that you're carrying. All
Yes.
of these belief systems, even friendships, assess them to ensure that they're still serving their purpose, because all too often we're carrying relationships, we're carrying connections with individuals, we're carrying beliefs when the social contract has already been fulfilled and
Yes.
should have long ago been released into the universe. But we didn't realize that, oh my goodness, that is a thing. And because as women, we're emotional, because as women, we are loyal to a fault. We believe that if I was to say, yep, this is my best friend. We've been best friends since high school. We've been best friends since our mothers were best friends. And even though the relationship isn't reciprocal, even though relationship seems to be lopsided and one person seems to be benefiting and that person isn't me, we're holding on to it, right? Because we don't want to be called, right, that bitch. We don't want to be called the person who isn't friendly. We don't want to be seen as the mean girl. And it has nothing to do with that. It is about understanding where you're going next in life. And to your point, if we don't remove the experiences, the people, the things, and release them into the universe, but with love, because the contract has been fulfilled, how can we ever expect to be refueled with the new stuff
It's so
that the
true.
universe has for
Yeah.
us? You can't. You
You
can't.
can't. You can't. One of the biggest things that I've learned over the last 5 years, like what needs to die in me so something new can be reborn,
And
right? Creating
exactly that
space
point.
to receive. And sometimes that is not necessarily like completely cutting off a relationship, but letting that change and evolve as you evolve and find yourself and
Right.
what it is that you're looking for and what you're not willing to settle for or what you're not willing to take or do that's sacrificial anymore because you're not getting back on the receiving end. And
Indeed.
it's just fine, like you said, finding yourself and knowing what you want. I think we as women sometimes are not clear about that, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
what is it that I want out of a
Mm-hmm.
relationship? What is it that
Mm-hmm.
I am looking for that's going to really fill up my cup? Because we're so busy filling everybody else's.
Every day, all day, and twice on Sunday, as I say, we are. And I believe also too, it has a lot to do with the socialization. It has to do with culture. It has to do with the ways in which we've been sold a bill of goods as women, that our lot in life is about other
Oh,
people.
it's so true. It is. It
It's about
is.
other people.
And
So
then we get our identity, the way that they think about us, the way that they
absolutely.
feel about us, the way that they talk about us is then how we feel about ourselves.
Indeed.
But until we do that deeper work, we don't know that
Yes.
we actually feel that way about ourselves too.
And to my point, we end up carrying all of these misconceptions, all of these identities that don't even align with the essence of who we are, because we haven't appropriately put them down and assessed them, and then put them in categories or place them where they belong. And sometimes they belong in the universe.
So
Let me
true.
release you into the universe because the social contract has been fulfilled. When we've done everything that we've supposed to do together, whether it's an employer, it's a relationship with, a friend, whether male or female, even marriages sometimes come to fruition and the social contract has been fulfilled and should be released into the universe. But we're so caught up with the negative narration that we're playing this story in the back of our minds that we won't release our brilliance. We won't release the essence of who we are because we're so concerned with the narrative. We're so concerned with what people might say if we pick us.
That's right. And we think that we failed if we can't keep it together. We're the failure if the relationship doesn't work out, or we have to walk away, or we didn't do enough, or we didn't try hard enough. And I'm just like, wait a minute.
It's too much. It's too much.
Yes.
It is too much. And I think that's where I love the work, not only individually with the women that I work with, but also in the tribe. We use specific language. We call things out as they are. So then that way we release the valve. We release the pressure from us holding all of these unrealistic expectations. And then we blame ourselves. We point finger at ourselves. We believe that we're a failure. We believe in this notion and this idea of perfectionism when it doesn't exist. Perfect isn't a thing. But again, when we're talking about the ways in which we've been socialized and educated, and we've been told this is the way we have to show up as women, we got to be perfect, we got to be pretty, we got to be the best wife to our husbands, we have to be the best mother to our children, we have to be the best to our parents. The Bible even says, respect thy parents and things of that nature, and be your community great, love thy neighbor. Be in the community, be in the church. And then we look up, we're exhausted from giving, that we're good if we can take a shower and brush our teeth at night. For real. And you wonder why heart attacks is the number one killer for women, and the number for women of color is even higher because of the pain, the stress that we're carrying, trying to fulfill everybody else's needs than our own. And even, again, back to language, calling it out. This is inequitable. This isn't fair. Why, my husband and I, my ex-husband, we're both working, but it seems like I'm doing the lion's share of the caretaking, the cooking and the cleaning, when, we're both supporting our household. Sisters and brothers, you have a parent that might be ailing. Why am I the only one taking care of mom? We all live in the same city. She's all of our mothers. Why am I taking on the majority of her appointments? Why am I making sure that her prescriptions are filled?
That's right.
All of those things, that's language, even in work, having open and honest conversations. And one of the things that we talk about in with what I do with my corporate clients, or my clients who are wanting to be more in the professional space, specific language around where they get energy from, their brilliance. So I walk them through an actual assessment called Foresight. It's the science of good thinking. And here you get an opportunity to better understand how you show up and where you align with solving problems. Are you more of a clarifier? Are you more of an implementer? So you can then use this specific language to say to your team, let's be more collaborative, and the best place to place me is in this particular role. This is where I'm going to shine. This is where I am going to be my brilliant self. And it helps move the project along.
It's so good. It reminds me, I don't know if you've ever heard of human design, but
I have. I don't know a lot. Yes.
Yeah. So it's like, if you're trying to run on someone else's energy type, you're just going to be depleted, right? Like, you have to know your zone of genius and what lights you up and what motivates you and where you're best used. And if you don't know that, and you're trying to, let's just say I'm a manifester, so I get like these really big intuitive hits and these intuitive pings, but then I crash really hard. Like, once I do a project, I'm done. Like,
right.
You're not going to hear from me for a couple of weeks. But I used to try to run my life like something called a generator, and they have a ton of energy, and they bring the energy into the room. And I'm like, I don't have sustainable energy like that. I'm So it's
Yes.
so important to do these assessments,
Hmm.
and to really, like you said, know yourself, know, and not question it, not feel like you have to be like someone else, because spirit is speaking to you through your energy, right? If
Yes.
you are drained, if you are depleted, if you're overtired, if you're overgiving, if you're overworking, like
Yes.
it's not working for you. It's not what that's
Indeed.
not the track your soul wants you on.
Indeed. And then it's important to be able to notice that, because again, as women, we think, oh no, that means there's something wrong with me. And then I got to find another way to make it work. We often walk into rooms trying to do what? Contort and to
Mm.
fit into boxes when it's not us that's crooked, it's the room.
Oh,
So we walk
so
into
good.
many crooked rooms and we take on that crookedness and trying to affix, to appease, to please, and end up with a disease.
Oh, it's so true. End up with a disease. Yes, I call it disease, dis-ease, discomfort, disconnection,
Yep.
all the diseases,
All of it.
all of it that we
Right.
just, and there's something going on if those
It
are
is.
the feelings and the thoughts we're having. And I
Yeah.
think you actually, I saw on your website, an assessment tool about
Yeah.
conformity.
Yes.
What does that entail? Is that similar to what you just
Yep. So it
described?
is. So that feeds into it. So one of the things we've been using, looking at marketing, looking at ways where women want to be able to kind of see themselves in a
Mm,
vehicle. So what we do is we know conformity is really, really unfortunately, it is high within the space for women, right?
mm,
Because we wanted to conform, we wanted to be seen as a team player, we wanted to be seen as the nice one, we wanted to be seen as the individual that can get the job done. And not that we can't get done, but sometimes, to your point, we're doing it at the cost of conforming into spaces, one, that don't align with our energy, our preference. And then that is the assessment. So with the foresight assessment, we say, hey, have you been conforming? So
mm.
have you been out of alignment with what it is that you're supposed to be doing and didn't know it, didn't have the language, and was just going along to get along because you didn't have any other way to articulate your experiences. So now
Yeah.
with this, you can say, and in identifying your brilliance, you get to then be able to see the brilliance and the energy for your other team and be like, that is why Alicia, like, she is an ideator. She's always popping. But again, once she's done, she's not going to give you anything else because she's depleted, right? And then, from that particular space, from ideation, we move into development, then give that to the people on the team or on your company, whatever it is, give them the actual tasks that are in alignment with their energy and their preference. Because so the thing we talk about is ability and preference, right?
Mm.
They are completely different. It doesn't mean that, like you said, you can't be the generator, but you're not going to be the best generator because your energy for generation is low. But again, like you said, the ideation, your energy is high. That's your genius zone. That's your flow. Martin Stigman, so where's your flow at? And let's begin either putting us in our positions of flow or informing the people that we're
Oh,
collaborating with. This is my area of flow. This is where I get high energy from. So that's what the conformity is about. A lot of times we conform because we don't have language.
oh, I love it. I love it. And I'm like, a bunch of things are running through my head as you're talking. It's so good. And I love the idea of like preference versus ability, right? Like I
Yes.
recently had a situation where there was, I used to be just a yes person, right? Like,
Mm,
yes, okay, I'll give you what you want because I'll feel bad saying no. And I'll put
mm,
myself
mm.
in a position where it's like, well, I don't really want to do this, but this person really wants me to do this. So I'll do it
Indeed.
anyways. And then I end up feeling depleted in my, old self. But
Yes.
now it's, if someone has a request, hey, I want to come visit you for the weekend, or what do you think about this? It's, do I prefer to do it? Is it a full body yes for me? Do I have
Indeed.
the ability to do it? Yes, I do. But do I want to?
And yep. I
And
love
I
that.
think so many of us are so afraid to disappoint someone or let someone
Mm,
down or say no, So then we do the thing anyways, and then we build up resentment, or we build up this like, we tax ourselves out and we run on empty because we're too afraid to use our voice and to speak truth, or to hurt someone's feelings, which women often kind of have a blueprint for. Like that's what
Yeah.
we say. And I love the distinction between those two things. Like it's almost
Yes.
like before I commit,
Yes.
what is my preference, and do I have
Yes.
the ability?
Yes. And then yes, and building on that, with my creativity language, if I say yes to you, am I saying no to me?
Mm, love
If
that.
I'm
Yes.
saying yes to you, am I saying no to me? Or is it a no on the other side? And I think the other thing, one of the another tagline, another saying that I have grown to love as I've continuously just be steeped in who Tamara is. I do a thing called what I want.
Mm,
And I invite women to do a thing called what you want, because we've been doing, to your point, what everyone else wanted us to do, and it's depleting us, and it's causing discourse. It's
yes.
causing us to be exhausted, tired. It is costing us to miss us
Yes.
because we're trying to show up for everyone else.
And when we're in that energy, we have no love to give.
And then
We
it's
have
raggedy
nothing.
anyway,
We
so
have
who wants
nothing to
it?
give.
It's raggedy anyway. It's half-assed. You're like, well, if you were going to show up like this, you should have stayed home. And that's why it's important for
So
us.
good.
It's important for us to really be able to assess, right? So one of the things, when bringing us back to the third annual Financial Freedom Brunch, where I did the piece on self, and I said, where are your triggers? And then
Yes.
what language is connecting to that? Because we do things begrudgingly, and then we show up with a funky attitude. We show up, our energy is not there, and then guess what? That's when we can hurt ourselves come into play, because we're not in the right frame of mind. Relationships could be either further fractured or ended because we're not in the right frame of mind, and we really wanted to say no, but like you said, we begin resenting and be like, because you wanted me to do this, and because you said I was the only one able to do this, I showed up for you. I didn't show up for myself, and I'd have missed my spa appointment. I'd have missed my massage, and now my back is aching now, right? And then it's a domino effect.
Absolutely.
So I invite the women to assess. So I invite them to create an actual battery, a battery of questions, almost like a survey. Okay, you're needing, one of my clients, matter of fact, her last session was today. She was always being asked to do something, so much so she would give. She ended up sick. As a matter of fact, during our time together, and had to go to the doctors and get some
Wow.
medication. He told her, you need to be off for the next day or two, because she runs herself ragged. You thought you had a disease to please? I was like, oh no, we can't do this. I say all that to say, it's great that individuals want to have you and want your brilliance in their space, but again, at what cost? And I said, ask them, okay, how much time do you need from me? What does it look like? What is this event for? When is it? And then have them send that information to you via email. So she was like,
Mm.
why email? I said, because it's the stimulus and response. It
Oh,
gives you
so
the
good.
freedom to, right, slow it down. Because all too often, sometimes when individuals ask us things, we feel on the spot, on the pressure to say yes. So guess what? We acquiesce and we capitulate and we say yes. I said, so it's about the stimulus and response. And stimulus and response isn't always, a negative thing where someone has cut you off and that was your
Yeah.
parking spot and flipped you the bird where that was the stimulus. And as opposed to, again, smashing your car in the back of theirs or flipping them the bird back, pull back and
Right.
look at it, and to provide yourself with enough room to decide with freedom and liberation. Because all
Right.
too often we pop off, or all too often we say an answer or provide an answer, and we sit back. Dang, I wish I never said that, because we're double booked, we're triple booked, we don't look at our calendar, and we're not even on our calendar furthermore. So that was another thing that we worked on with her. Put yourself in the
Yes.
calendar. Put
Yes.
yourself on your calendar. And she was like, oh my goodness. I said, so then you get all of the specifics, all of the details of what it is that they are needing from you and your brilliance. And you get the opportunity to appropriately assess whether it's something you want to do, if you have the energy to do it. And if you say yes, to ensure you're not saying no to you and something else.
Oh, that's so brilliant. And I love it. The one thing that I had to work on and still do is I'll get an invite and in the moment it actually feels really exciting. It's
Yeah.
like,
Oh,
oh,
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
really excited to do this. This looks awesome. And then I have to really slow down and I'm like,
Yep.
how am I going to feel after? How much energy is it going to take? Do I have the capacity to be a full body yes? And then afterwards,
Yes.
what is the cost exchange on the back end of that?
Because there's always a cost.
Right. And even if it's a full body, yes, I really want to or desire to, what does
Right.
that really look like in the grand scheme of my schedule and all the other things I have going on and have to
Indeed.
manage, which I used to sort of like dissociate and wonder why I
Yeah.
was burnt out.
Indeed. And it is connected. And that's the beauty of understanding the request and understanding the asks that other people have of you, have of us as women,
Yes.
because we're moving so fast. And like you said, even if it is a full body yes, then what's my capacity? When
Yes.
I show up, what does that look like? And then how does this capacity impact the rest of my runway?
That's right. What else I have going on that I'm saying yes to? Oh,
Indeed.
it's so
Indeed.
great. Because I mean, I feel like and I don't know about what your take is on this, but I think some women try to run their lives in more of like a masculine way of like
Mm,
where they have to like plan out every time all their time and they have to like be really strict and rigid with their schedule and then they get all upset with themselves if they don't do this thing and like they leave out like the feminine flow
yeah.
of how to make things work. And I'm like, you are not supposed to run your business like a man.
Yeah. Well, especially if you're not a man. So let's start
Right.
there. Right. Let's
Just
start
because they
there.
can like hammer, you know what I mean? Just because they can like, be overproducing and like let's bring back into alignment what like
Right.
actually feels good to you. Do you want
Yes.
to see this many people a day? Do you want to do this many meetings a day? Do just because you can doesn't
Doesn't
mean
mean
that
you
that's what's
should.
filling you up.
Absolutely.
And we get this over productivity or over performance
Mhm.
piece of us that we've
Yeah.
been sort of like jolted into. I think it's like learning how to, be okay with creating space and going with the flow and not being on all the time.
Indeed. And I call that, being able to assess what does your capacity look like.
Mhm.
So what do you have the capacity for? And then how is it in alignment with what you are, or who you are, where you're going, and how is that again feeding your why, your purpose, to
Yes.
be able to be fueled, and understanding that every day is going to look different, every day isn't going to look the same, and there's some days where you're going to be in flow and it's just going to be magical and you're going to be like, oh my goodness, I am floating on cloud 9, 10, and 11 simultaneously.
Yes, yes.
And then there's going to be moments where you be like, yo, I really jacked this day was not at all what I thought it was going to be. And I need a do-over. Right?
Yes,
I need a
yes.
do-over. But even in those moments, I invite my clients to slow down
Love
and
it.
then assess it. What did you like about what you did and why? And
Mhm.
what will you change the next time and why? Because it's trial and learn. It's not trial and error. We have to begin changing our language in order to be able to
Mm.
change how we show up in the world. So if we're steeped in negativity, we get to keep everything we argue for.
It's so
And I'm
good.
listen, I'm gonna say that in the back, say it again for the people in the back. We get to keep everything we argue for. So if you're arguing that this is not going to work, if you're arguing that this is going to be arduous, if you're arguing that, oh my goodness, I'm never going to have enough time in a day, I'm never going to be successful at this, my business will never thrive, then guess what? You've just called that into
Yeah.
your orbit. And that's exactly what the universe is going to give you, because our subconscious mind is stronger than our conscious mind. So I say be very, very strategic about how you talk to yourself. Dare I say, to met no says, How are
Right.
you fueling you? How are you maintaining your brilliance? How are you pouring into your cup? How are you, again, feeding you, quite frankly? Because if you're not, someone else is.
I love it. I love it. One of the key things you said, which I often preach about as well, is I love that you invited, what am I learning, right? Self learning
Yes,
or self judgment, which is what we have been so conditioned to, right? Like we
indeed.
have been trained, culture, society, all that stuff to learn from judging ourselves and then we push ourselves, right? But this judgment is a self fulfilling prophecy,
Yes.
right? Instead
Yes,
of
yes, yes.
creating space to be curious,
Yeah,
right? Because the judge is going to always judge,
it
right?
is.
So are you going to give fuel to that part of you, or are you going to bring in that other side of you, which is divine, which is all knowing, which is the creative source, right?
Yes,
That wants to flow through you. So which
yes.
part are you letting run the show right now?
Indeed. And it's funny, I love that. One of the things that we say inside of the Be Bold tribe is you are our SOP. You are our standard operating procedure, and how,
Mm.
because our number one guideline is we defer judgment. Because as
Oh,
women, we have been judged in
oh,
every
I love
facet of life.
it.
You are our standard operating procedure. We are about seeing you and supporting you navigate what's next, whether it's personally and or professionally. And we do that by deferring judgment. And when we're able to defer judgment, it affords us the opportunity to what? Be divergent in our experiences, to be
Yes.
open to new and novel ideas, to be open to someone else's lens and or perspective that we may have not tried on before. So the idea of the Be Bold tribe is you get an opportunity to get it wrong in the safety, the brevity, right? We're talking about spatiality,
Yeah.
and you get to try your boldness on with women who are clapping for you and who want to
Yes.
win with you and want you to win and be successful.
Oh, you're doing such good work. Oh
Thank
my
you.
goodness.
I love
Oh,
it. I love it. I love it. And but as you know, because you're doing great work as well, it's hard because women, we've been sold a bill of goods. It's hard for us to be able to, one, articulate to thyself that I'm an investment.
mm,
Say your children, they want to go soccer camp, baseball camp, AAU basketball, whatever it is, we find, you hear me? We find the money and the
yeah,
resources.
yeah,
If it's our husbands, our spouses, our significant others, they only know invest in themselves. Babe, we got to figure out how to do this. I want to take this because I'm going to grow the business. We, on the other hand, we talk ourselves not only down, but off of our brilliance and out of what it is that we're supposed to be doing in life.
oh, it's so
And I
true.
say, listen, it is important for us to know that it is essential that we invest in ourselves. And when you come and have these experiences, it's an investment. And they were
Mhm.
like, what? Really? Or they've never seen it before because it's
Yeah.
not talked about. And there's no model, there's no example. So they then think that, well, maybe this thing isn't necessary. We can, unfortunately, ignore thyself because we have. We can, unfortunately, not be honest about how we're feeling because we've done it before. We can,
Yeah.
unfortunately, put everyone else before us in first because we have. So when we are looking at all of the people in our lives, all of the experiences, employer, children, community, family that we put before us, of course, it's going to look new and novel or odd for you to invest in yourself, in especially since it's not a tangible product. It's
Yes.
not a pair of shoes, right? You're not going on vacation. It's not a new outfit. It's not a new vehicle. But is it?
Mm.
Because it's you. It's pouring into you, the vessel. And when you are well, when you're operating from an energetic space that can't be misled any longer, there's this great quote. It said, self assured, insecure women have confident and assured children. And those assured and confident children have confident and assured children. So we can't be what? Manipulated.
Oh, and that
We've
is the
been
work.
manipulated as women to show up for everyone else. Thus, we don't know what it looks like or feels like to invest in ourselves, especially when you're talking about resources as well. And not just resources, financial resources, because there's more types of resources. There's resources of time, there's spatiality, there's
Sure.
temporarily, there is resource of energy, there's resources of human capital, all of that. But when you're saying, well, this is an experience
Mm.
where you get an opportunity to meet yourself, because most times as women, we have not been invited to step into the space of meeting ourselves.
And it's such powerful work. But there is, the ego, the wounded self.
Yes,
It
yes,
wants us to resist, right? It doesn't
of
want us
course.
to look. It doesn't want us to
Mm-mm,
admit. It doesn't want us to
mm-mm.
say we're unhappy, because then we actually might have to make change.
Talk about it. Talk about
Right.
it.
And if we're afraid of change, like we have to keep it all together, the good girl, right? We have to keep it all together for everybody else. And if I actually start to care about myself and look at myself and make myself a priority, then things are going to have to change around here.
Indeed, because then I will have, like you said, I will have to admit that I've gotten some things wrong. I will have to admit that I'm not happy in this marriage. I will have to admit I was really supposed to marry my college sweetheart, but because my family wanted me as a woman to marry this doctor so I could always be taken care of, because we grew up poor, because my family didn't want me to struggle, because I'm an only child and my parents didn't want me to be alone. That means that I took on all of this debt and this loan to go to school to do X, and it really isn't my passion. I really want to be an artist. That means I have to admit all of the things that I've gotten wrong. And I say, it is not necessarily about the things that you've gotten wrong. You learning you.
That's
You're
right.
learning you. You have been placed in a beautiful position to now pivot. When did pivot become a bad thing? I'm trying
Yes.
to figure it out.
Well, pivot means that I'm not going to have the false sense of security and safety in another person or in a job. So
Yes. Yep,
let's
it
just
is.
conform
There you go.
and lose thyself, because
Indeed.
that's safer. And that's the training and the programming
Yep.
that we've all been indoctrinated into, that I really believe we're, called to radically shift and
Absolutely. Well, I
defy
say,
through.
indeed, we need to disrupt it. And people are like, well,
Yeah.
why would I want to defend a system that has been detrimental to women from the onset? I'm
Oh,
not defending it. I need to disrupt it. And that's
amen.
the work that we're doing. We're disrupting it. And we're disrupting it by one, coming together and seeing and supporting one another, debunking the rumor that we have to be in competition rather than collaboration. And again, disrupting by providing women with a safe and brave space to lay their vulnerable selves down, but where they can figure it out and try their boldness on with the perspective and the lens of other amazing women that love on them. And then lastly, have specific language that supports it. So they have
Amen.
tooling, they have strategies, because life is going to happen. And when life happens, they don't have to contort and then dial it back, because now they know, let me slow this down. I've seen this before, and
Mhm.
let me take a moment to assess it so I can then strategically determine how I'm going to move and where I'm going to move next, or if I'm going to move.
That's right. And I think what you mentioned earlier is such a key factor in that, when you do make that choice to get to know yourself, and you
Yes,
brave through the wilderness and the storm, and you make those changes, the other side of that is trusting yourself, trusting the universe, right? So that you don't you so because you know your worth now, you know your value, and you
yes,
know the inner compass within that's always
yes,
guiding you. And so you don't
yes,
get pulled, you're not so swayed into other directions, because you're your own truth now.
indeed, indeed. I agree. I agree.
Right? It's like that's the gold of this. When you face the fear, when you face yourself, when you work through those limiting beliefs or those resistances or even those societal expectations, what you were born
Mhm.
into, Like that's the work, right? That's the work of the soul. Like
Yeah.
that's the journey to
Yeah.
evolve and to grow and to find yourself. And my words, like, find God, find your creator, find that source that's within
Yes.
you. Um, to to fulfill that purpose, to
Indeed. That's
follow
the
that
authentic power.
call.
Yeah, that's the authentic power.
Oh,
Right? When
that's
your
the
personality
gift.
comes to again serve the energy of your soul, that's the authentic power, right?
Yeah.
Gary Zukav, um
Gary
Zukov,
Zukov. Yeah.
Gary Zukov,
When
right?
say that one more time. When the
See,
personality, say it one more time.
when the personality comes to serve the essence of the soul.
Yes. That's
Yeah,
authentic power.
yeah, that's authentic power,
Love it.
right? I know I love Seed of the Soul. There's a great dynamic book. I love that book.
It's a good
But
book.
and that's those are the things that we should be kind of, in search of, right?
Yes.
In search of thyself. When we know our why, nothing or no one can corrupt it. When we know our
Mm,
why, nothing or no one can corrupt that. And all too often, our whys or our lives, I should say, or even the lie, have been steeped in this persona, this respectability politics
yes.
that we have to play or we decide to play or we have been invited to play in society.
Oh, I mean, we could easily get down a rabbit hole with all
I
the
know,
systems that make us do
all
that.
of that. And we might have to have a part two or three.
My head is going to like
Because,
religion, like how'd you work through that fear, like all the fear, right? It's all fear, all fear, all fear.
yes,
But it
indeed,
really is when you have a resounding inside like truth in yourself, that becomes the source.
it does. I
Yeah.
agree.
All right. So you have a podcast coming out
Yes.
talking about disruption.
Listen,
I absolutely enjoyed listening to your episodes, and
thank
there's
you.
so much medicine to dive into. So podcast is She Disrupts, now
She's
live on Spotify.
fine.
Oh, yes. What inspired the podcast? What can we expect for you to bring to the listeners that follow you? Tell us a little bit
Um,
about it.
women inspired the podcast.
Yeah.
You inspired the podcast, Cecily, the women that we had an opportunity to share space with at the event a couple weeks ago inspired the podcast. My mother inspired the podcast. My sisters, the other women that I have dope relationships with, and then even the women that I no longer have relationships with inspired the podcast.
Oh,
It's again a safe space, a mentorship or sponsorship for women to come in and to, be mad about things, but then get tooling strategies so then that way when they're out in the world, they can do the work and not get caught up in the negative narration or the emotion of life and miss an opportunity to educate a colleague, educate a friend, educate someone on who they are. Because again, there wasn't a safe space. There wasn't a tribe there to help them connect the dots with specific language, with real examples about, wow, you know what? All of this time, I thought I was really enjoying this. And then because I tried that, it afforded me another lens. It's polarity. It's not this or that, but this and that. And a
yes.
lot of times we, aren't giving these options. So it is this mentorship, kind of like, Oprah, Cecily and I talked about that on one episode on the podcast, or one part of the podcast episode, is that, Oprah told us, she mentored all of us when she said, you are enough just as you are.
Yes.
Women, you are enough just as you are. And disruption is about having difficult conversations first with thyself, and then being able to show up and stand in that, stand on the vanguard, be steeped
Yeah.
in who you are, and be okay with individuals who might not get it, who don't want to get it, or who don't care to get it. Because it's not about convincing, it's not about cajoling, and it's not about changing the minds of any people. It is about doing the work on you. And when you're
Yes.
doing the work on you, you are becoming better every day. You're evolving and you're putting your dynamicism out into the universe, because your life is an example for someone, right?
Absolutely.
It is an example.
Absolutely. I,
So,
I once heard a quote. If you have something to share and you're too afraid to share it, it's like you're the lifeguard and everyone else is in the
mm,
pool and you're not throwing them the life preserver.
mm. Yes. And you're
Right?
willingly watching people drown.
Yes. Like you don't have to have it all figured out or have to have it perfect. But if
Yes.
there's something that's on your heart that you feel like you want to share to the world, like share it, work through the
Yes.
fear, like push through that resistance because that is right. Like we are connected to the heart and mind of God. And if that is ready to come through you, like let it
Yes.
come through
Let it come
messy
through.
and imperfect and whatever, but
Yeah.
just do it anyways.
You have to do it
Yeah.
scared, do it unsure, do it without all of the resources, do it without the support of other people that you felt like had your back or you had their back at every step in
Yes.
their lives. And then the moment you needed them, they didn't show up. And that's also part of the disruption too that we talk about releasing relationships, releasing people into the universe. When you are connected to individuals and you walk away and you're always feeling, or traditionally you're feeling dejected, you're feeling drained, you're feeling heavy, then maybe that's a sign to begin putting your finger on those experiences and calling them for what they are. We get
Yes.
so, well, that's just Tamara, and she's going through a lot, and she's this and we make excuses for everyone, but we don't even create space for us to be who we're supposed to be. And then we're wondering why again we end up sick. We're wondering why, things doesn't seem to be happening because we're not narrating the story. We're allowing someone else to pick up the pen and narrate the ending. You're either the protagonist or the antagonist in your story, period.
Ah, so good. Yes. Oh, yes. Oh, this is so good. So, She Disrupts podcast, this awesome, bold tribe. We will definitely link it in the show notes. And
Yes,
I'm
please do.
excited, one, to connect with you, to
Yeah.
actually get a, bird's eye view into the work that you're actually doing in the community, which I think is incredible.
Yes.
And it is very obvious that you are following your call and that you are
Thank
lifting women
you.
up. And I am just really honored to walk this journey with you and
Thank you.
really, really excited to attend more of your events because you
Yes.
are just incredible at the way you speak, at the way you build women up, at the language you use, all
Hmm.
of the things that you are doing. You are definitely dancing your Dharma. And I'm really honored to have you on
Oh,
today and to have
yes.
more women come your way.
I love that. And I
Thank
thank you
you.
again for having me as a guest. You'll be getting an invite because that's the second part. So the first season is really kind of diving into Tamara and how I came to disruption, through all of my trial and learn now that I have language. But then the other parts will be interviewing and sitting with dynamic women like you who've disrupted in your own space and
Mhm.
helping women through the lenses and through the perspectives of bold women like you. So I'm looking forward to that as well. So I thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. It's been an honor.
Yes, the honor's
And
been mine, the pleasure. Have an amazing, amazing day. And if there's any other way in which I can be of support, please let me know. I'm here.
you got it.
All right.
All right. Thank you all. Thanks for staying to the end of the episode, everybody. I hope that you found a ton of value and that you are inspired to live authentically, bravely, and boldly. Do not forget to go and follow Tamara on her podcast, She Disrupts. Make sure that you leave her a review. Make sure that you share it with someone that you know because her work and her words absolutely need to get out there into the world. And if you feel called, check out her website, Empower Me, and really see what she has to offer because she is inspiring women to step out of their comfort zones and to do their work in the world. And we need more women like her. And I know that if you listen to this, then you have something inside of you that is ready to be birthed and is ready to come through you because you need to do your work in this world too. We are all here on a unique soul mission, and we do so much better when we build each other up instead of breaking each other down. And if you need help really diving deeper into the mental chatter that is making you doubt yourself, go and download my free guide to dismantle the limiting beliefs that are not serving you and sign up for my newsletter and continue to listen to my podcast. Make sure that you share it, make sure you like it, make sure you subscribe to it because I am going to keep bringing you valuable women and men who are doing this work and who are here to build you up so that you know what is possible. Because where you're at right now is not where you're staying.